Greetings, fellow watchers, and welcome to this Roll for Crit review. Today we're taking a look at Scarabya, hopefully I pronounced that right, from Blue Orange Games.
Could be Scarabya, Scarabia. We found a lot of different ways. That's part of the fun of the game. So this is a game that involves exploration and discovering scarabs. But really at its heart, I would say it's a puzzle game, yeah?
Yes. The way each game works in the main game is that you'll take a board, a little frame like this. And the youngest player is the main adventurer. And we'll take these 4 tiles and arrange them in a way such that it ends up as we have set up here. And everyone else has to actually copy him so they have the exact same map. They're just pretty much based on 4 different terrains: a jungle, a tundra, a desert, and underwater.
Right, but aside from that aesthetic, you all have the exact same tiles. And like you said, once you copy that first player, you end up with the exact same layout with these little rocks that are obstacles. And of course, the scarabs that you're going to want to score points from.
Yes. At the start of each turn or round, I guess, the youngest player, the main adventurer, will flip over a card, revealing a tetroid. Is that the word for it?
No, these are pentominoes, because there's 5. Or no, it probably depends on which one it is. I haven't counted them all. They're tiles. They're tiles of different shapes and sizes.
And everyone will take the exact same matching tile. And for the first one, we'll have to place them on the center squares. But everyone after that is going to take one that has to touch anywhere they want. It doesn't have to be the same. Obviously, you all spread out differently. And your goal is to surround the scarabs in an area of 4 or less. So if you're able to surround some, like in this case, like right there, I would score each scarab in the air would score points equal to the number of squares in there. So this would only score 1. But if I got lucky and was somehow able to do something like this, each of those scarabs would score 4 because they're in an area of 4.
Exactly. So it's sort of like that old game Dots, or one of those classic games where you're trying to box in different areas. But because how the tiles are going to come out is random, you don't know exactly what the best way to play is always going to be. And sometimes you will have to cover up a scarab because it's just a better play. You'll be able to get more points from it later on. Or because you just messed up and maybe that's the only place you have room for one of these tiles.
Yeah, you have to place it if you can. So you can't try to sort of avoid by saying, I'm just not going to place this one.
Right.
But you can use the edge of the board and rocks to help sort of wall off the area, which is a little bit helpful. But they can also be a little bit annoying if you're like, oh, that rock's in the one place where I can't.
Yeah, so it's a lot of strategizing about how to get the most out of your board. And because everyone is playing the same puzzle at the same time, there's not really any player interaction. You can't, there's no messing up someone else's tile or something. There's no take that elements. So you're kind of just competing for a high score with each other.
Yeah, and the points, even if you run out of the 4 symbols, they just say take a 3 and a 1 or 2 and 2. So there shouldn't be any, you can't steal the points from people.
Right, exactly.
You play until you've gone through the entire deck, and then you'll score the number of scarabs you have captured. And you can sort of see who does it a bit more efficiently. And it becomes really interesting because a lot of games sort of ended up, especially with me, for some reason, when depending on which of the last 2 cards came up, could either net me like 15 points or make me lose and only get like 1, which became very exciting.
Yeah, you like to play that fast and loose, this is it, I'm going to make it for one play that's going to make or break everything.
It just happens to turn out that way. I never planned it that way.
I think it's subconscious. But yeah, so it is really satisfying when you pull off a good combo, like when you get like right there, if you manage to do that, 12 points in one turn, it feels good. And you immediately take your tokens and mark the ones that you've scored so that you can keep track of where you've been on the board and what you have left to do. And if you're taking a look at your pile, you can kind of figure out, I know I've got these 3 pieces left, so I'm going to start thinking about where on my board will I be able to fit this so that I don't block myself off.
Yeah, and in particular, I know that both of us definitely had moments when we're like, oh, like when a certain card reveals, and all of a sudden you're like, wait, I can put that here. And you feel like so amazed that you came up with a really good way to fit. But this is for the 3 to 4 player rules. There actually are variants for the single player and one-on-one. And one-on-one, we'd actually be sharing a board so that we're actually scoring. So it becomes a whole different game in which we're thinking like, I might go for that 1 because it makes it harder for you to score a 4.
Yeah, very interesting, very different. That one actually does have direct player interaction. You can really block each other's plays at times. And I think it's also a great solo option because honestly, with 3 or 4 players, you kind of are all playing a solo game together. It's not too dissimilar from another Bruno Cathala game, King Domino. So because of that, just it's like a natural fit to try and like top your high scores and things like that with the game. And even when you're playing with multiplayer, it feels good. Even if you didn't win, you can be like, oh, well, I improved on my last score, which is fun.
This game really does bring out the puzzle lover's joy. And sort of just because one of the things is you're all solving the same puzzle, because it doesn't feel like, oh, well, I got ruined by my board setup and you happen to have a more optimal one for the way the pieces came out. But it isn't just solved directly because you don't know what pieces may come out, like which pieces you're allowed to play. So it's not a direct, like, as soon as you see this, like, done.
Yeah, it's a very relaxed game. It's not hostile. It's not aggressive at all.
And it's quick. This takes about 15 minutes, I think, or so per game. So even if you play through and you're like, I lost, you're like, oh man, let's set up a different pattern.
Depending, of course, on how quickly your players make decisions in your group. Because sometimes you're like really agonizing over where do I put this one piece that could make or break everything. And even though it's not an official variant in the book, but if you play it a bunch, I feel like it could be fun to even just everybody just has a random setup sometimes, you know, just to see what happens, and then maybe it's even more like you're just playing your own solo game, but it could be fun that way, I think. Or something else I thought is that you could buy 2 sets of this game, and pretty easily you could play with up to 8 players because there's no all the turns are simultaneous, so there wouldn't be any more downtime. And so if you have a larger group, I think that would be a great way to do it. Like you said, I mean, it's a satisfying puzzle game when you figure those things out. It's really fun, and while the theme is light, the components are nice to look at. These rocks are cool. The design on the pieces is really interesting.
Yeah, the tiles are very cute. They all have, I think they have somewhere like this one that's a square with the side off. I think is all a very large vehicle, no matter which group it's in and stuff. And so they have a sort of a theme, a little bit, like not too much, but it's nice.
It's something to look at while you're playing. Scarabya, crits and misses. Crits. It's a super quick game that you can play multiple times in a single sitting with different players if need be. There's a satisfying sense of solving a puzzle and besting your own previous high scores. With multiple board setups and randomization of what order the tiles come out in, there are a bunch of different ways to play, so every time you sit down, you're going to get a slightly different experience.
Now let's discover some misses. The way the game designed pretty much has absolutely no player interaction, excluding the 2-player variant, meaning that you're pretty much all playing a solo game.
It's not something that I personally mind. I think it's fine, but for a lot of people who want that more interaction, you're definitely not getting it here.
The pieces you can't play are chosen randomly from a deck of cards, which for some people could be a bit of an annoyance when you don't get the piece you really want. Scarabya is a quick, light game which we found to be great because it's one of those puzzle games you try to solve as best as you can, depending on the pieces you get. And when you finish, you really do want to try and play again.
Yeah, it was great because, it only goes up to 4 players, but because it's so fast, when we played it, we were just switching people in and out. People would come by and see how pretty the board looks and be interested by it and want to sit in on the next round. It definitely feels like a great companion piece to King Domino, which just came out not too long ago, also from Blue Orange and one of the same designers, Bruno Cathala. Very much, I think if you like King Domino, you're definitely going to like this as well.
In addition, we do find the variants very interesting and much different from the game. And honestly, anything that has a puzzle game like this, you got to get a good solo mode, and I think this does make that quite enjoyable.
Absolutely. It definitely feels perfectly natural in there as it is. So, Scarabya, please let us know in the comments how you pronounce it. Scarabya. I still like Scarabia, like Arabia, but with a scarab. I don't know. Or you can let us know if you have played it, what your thoughts are, optimal board setups, maybe your highest score. I think we went up to
70s, I think, somewhere
early
in there.
70s, late 60s or something. We ran out of point tokens, I know that, which I was impressed by. Let us know. Otherwise, you can follow us at all kinds of places. Here on YouTube, subscribe, like. We're on Twitter with links in the description, etc.
Yes, but until then, I'm Will.
And I'm Jonathan.
And this has been a Roll for Crit review.
Make sure you click the like and subscribe buttons so you get more board game content from Roll for Crit.
Do it. Do it now.